What's up, you guys? It's Joe Galvez back for part two of the grade draft. So let's just get right into it. Next up, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, kind of messed up my mock draft a bit in picking Brock Bowers. Originally, I had them either going offensive tackle or they really wanted a quarterback. They were going to go Spencer Rattler, which looking back at how the Falcons were planning out their stuff, Falcons could have gotten an edge, could have gotten something different in the first round, waited and got Spencer Rattler later on and had the quarterback that they wanted to learn under Kirk Cousins. Of course, they didn't think about that. Instead, Spencer Rattler ended up going to the division rivals, to the Saints. But that's for something for later. Again, Raiders could have gotten Spencer Rattler, learn other under Gardner Minshew, but instead it looks like they're sticking with Minshew and Aidan Connell and looking to get a quarterback next year. So the first pick, they got Brock Bowers, which I don't like that for Brock Bowers. I just think he deserves to be in the better team. The Raiders already had um, Myers, who's been doing very good for them. So it was not necessary for them to get Brock Bowers. Yes, he's the next player available, but you need him. I just didn't like that pick for him. But what the Raiders did need were quarterback, obviously, corner, offensive tackle, offensive guard, running back. The O line, I think they needed quite a bit. They did very well on getting this because the next pick they got Jackson Power Johnson, sent out of Oregon. He was highly praised. He was the second best in the center position. I think he was really great in Oregon. I think he's going to do great for the Raiders. Great pick. He got stolen. A lot of other teams wanted him. He got stolen for that. And then they doubled down on the O line with getting Delmar Glaze, offensive tackle out of Maryland. That was a great one, great pick, hopping on there. Then I'm going DeCamerion Richardson, corner out of Mississippi State. Again, instead of Brock Powers, I think they could have got another important player. I would have said offensive tackle. If you went to offensive tackle there, you could have got a corner in the third round, getting a better player. So again, part of the grade of getting them a C. And part of it is not because Brock Powers is a bad player. It's just the priority of it. They end up going Tommy Lechenberg, linebacker out of Ohio State. They need a linebacker. You didn't need help on that side, priority-wise. They ended up getting the running back right after with Dylan Laubu out of New Hampshire. Of course, he's going to be second, third string. He's behind. No, he's actually going to be fourth string because we had Zamir White taking over as the first string, Alexander Mattison being the second string. So no need of going your sixth round for a running back when you could have got an offensive guard or even a quarterback. Even if you didn't like him, could have gotten it. I don't think a priority or a need for the Raiders was running back. They were going Trey Taylor, safety, Air Force. Okay, you could add, especially after the Chiefs got Xavier Worthy, and not really Chargers getting as many receivers until later in the draft. So I guess you want to add more onto it. And then at the end, they ended with MJ Devonshire, corner out of Pittsburgh. Again, helping the secondary, not as necessary. I gave the Vegas Raiders a C because of this. But moving on to the Los Angeles Chargers, I gave them a B plus, and they got most of what they needed. I think they got the priority of what they needed. That's why I gave them a B plus. It's just how I had it going was different. This is what I say. The first pick, they used Joe O, offensive tackle of Notre Dame. He was the best offensive tackle in the draft, no question about it. My opinion, the priority should have been wide receiver, and you get Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunce. Couldn't go wrong with either one. I had them going Malik Neighbors. I think that should have been the priority. Then you would have had Joe O go to the Tennessee Titans, which I think a lot of people had, and then you had J.C. Latham go to the New York Jets. But the Chargers said, screw all of that. We're getting what we need, and we're getting protection for Justin Herbert. We're getting Joe O. It's a good pick. Don't get me wrong. It's a good pick on the position. I just think wide receiver is more the priority. They covered that in the wide receiver by getting Ladd McConkey, wide receiver out of Georgia. He's cool, he's tall, he's fast, he's good with the hands. He catches, gets the yards after. He was the wide receiver for Georgia. So it's a good pick, but again, you could have had Malik Neighbors on it. After that, they ended up going linebacker, Junior Colson, Michigan. It wasn't a necessary need, but you could have used a tackle, so they moved it around. But I don't think linebacker was a big priority to be your third pick. They go Justin Ibogibi, defensive tackle out Alabama, I think you could have gone up in the third round to get a defensive tackle instead. I mean, come on, your third round pick was the number fifth pick in the third round, and that's saying by the third round, if you're using that fifth pick, you could have gotten Dwayne Carter, McKinley Johnson. You could have gotten, I mean, sorry, McKinley Jackson. Could have gotten either one of those two, but instead you went to the fourth round. After they went Tarheeb, still corner out of Maryland. They need a corner. Again, prioritizing. If you're not getting a defense tackle in the third round, try to get your corner in the third round because they were going very quick. What would have been left in that third round? Well, Chargers ended up going in the fifth round for Tarheeb Steele. And that third round fifth pick, you could have got Audrey Phillips, could have got Elijah Jones, Jaren Jones, Carrier Jackson, either one of these players. They didn't go for it. After they went Cam Hart, another corner at Notre Dame, back to back, same round, literally three picks away from each other. So after they went Kimani Vidal, running back out of Troy, I mean, they already got Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, the running backs of the Ravens. Vidal, I guess, is just addition to learn on it, but they also had Joshua Kelly already there, who's been there for the team for a while. So, I don't know about the running back in this pick. They have gained Brandon Rice, wide receiver at USC. He was a very good wide receiver, good with the hands, keeping the ball to catch. I think he's going to do very well here. Of course, he's going to be behind Johnston and Lad McConkey right now. He's going to be the third string, but I think Brandon Rice could really find himself being that wide receiver too. So I think that's a really good pick on him. And then after they go Cornelius Johnson, wide receiver out of Michigan. Harbaugh has his wide receiver from Michigan. He knows how he plays. Now it's going to be a fight between Rice, Johnson, and McConkey to get that wide receiver two, or even Johnson. If Johnson is in for sure wide receiver one, it's all in fighting. It's open. I think it's going to be a really great wide receiver room battle to who gets the most playing time. So I give him a B plus just because of those reasons. Again, the priority of not needing a running back and getting a linebacker later on and getting prioritizing other players ahead. So moving on to the Rams. Rams, I also gave a B plus. I think they did great with the Jared Verse pick. They need an edge. They know it. They went Florida State. He was the third best defender. They got it. Perfect. No doubt about it. What they needed out, what else they also needed was a corner, offensive tackle, defensive tackle, and quarterback. Quarterback, I personally didn't really think they needed as much, so I wasn't too on them for that. Getting B plus because right after they went defensive tackle, Brandon Fisk, another Florida State player, back-to-back defenders on Florida State. That was a great one. Then they went running back with Blake Cornum from Michigan. I don't think that he was a priority of me. You already have Williams. He's balling now. Of course, injuries. I understand the injuries, but Blake Cornum, he's a very stiff runner. He does one cut and go. He doesn't have much of agility. He's not very shifty. He's very stiff in his running. I don't think he was a third round pick, especially for the Rams to get. So that one I didn't like. You could have got an offensive tackle, which was needed, or a corner in this scenario. And then going again in the third round, they got Cameron Kitchens, safety out of Miami. Again, removing safety and corners, fine, I guess, but you need to prioritize a corner. After they went to another edge, they went Brennan Jackson from Washington State. We felt like the edge is what needs to be attacked and getting your defensive tackle, beefing up that defensive pretty much line. I think that was very good. So I have no problem with that. And again, going back to another defensive tackle with Tyler Davis at Clemson. They eventually went punt kicker Joshua Carty from Stanford. Then after they went Jordan Whittington, wide receiver at Texas. Third string because really Puka's already settled that too. Unless you feel like Cup is gonna slowly declining, Puka's gonna take that one, and Whittington eventually gets that number two. After they went Bo Limmer, center out of Arkansas. You need offensive tackle, center. It helps out. It gives us some protection for Matt Stafford. And then you go KD Leaveston, offensive guard, Kansas State. Again, protection for Matt Stafford. So I like the center and offensive guard. Again, prioritize that. Could have prioritized that over running back and safety. And one of those, you could have gone a corner as well. So even with the wide receiver pick, you could have gone corner. So that's why I gave them a B plus. They could have been that better. Miami Dolphins, a team that I thought would have done a lot better. I gave them a C plus. I think they hit it on the mark with Chop Robinson, the edge. He was the fourth best edge out of Penn State. He was the fourth. He's out of Penn State. He's the fourth best edge in this draft. I think he was the really great first pick. I originally had him getting center, protect Zach Zinter. I to get protection for Tua, but going this edge, a priority, I think it was really spot on. But what the Miami Dolphins needed was also offensive tackle, offensive guard, tight end, and defensive tackle. Their second pick, they went Patrick Paul, offensive tackle from Houston. Again, protection, good needed. That's perfectly fine. At Zinter being the first round, whatever they needed, they got it. A protection no matter what. So then right after they went Jalen Wright, running back out of Tennessee. I don't like this pick, especially with being your third pick, because you already have Raheem Mostert, you have Achan who did great this last season. Of course, could call it a fluke, or when those seasons they played great this season when they bought out. Whatever you call it, doesn't matter. They have the running backs. You didn't need another running back, especially with your third pick. You eventually go Muhammad Kamara, edge out of Colorado State. Okay, doubling down the edge, but the priority, you needed a guard. Sure, you got a tackle, but you also need a guard. You need a defensive tackle. You need to help on the defensive side of the ball. And they went two picks that are not needed or not prioritized. One not needed, one not prioritized. Then after they went Malik Washington, wide receiver of Virginia. Again, not prioritized, not as needed. When Patrick McMorris, safety out of California, Berkeley. Uh, you just got Jalen Ramsey over there in the corners. You call safety. Depending on how you play, you have the help in the secondary. Your problem wasn't the secondary. And then you ended with Taj Washington, wide receiver at USC. Again, wide receivers wasn't necessary. That's my whole point. You could have gone a defensive tackle. You could have gone two defensive tackles if you really needed help. You could have gone another offensive tackle, or you could have got offensive guard. The second wide receiver wasn't it. You could get one. Doesn't matter. Malik Washington or Taj Washington. Both Washingtons, wide receivers. Could have got either one. But at the end, that sixth pick should have been a defensive tackle. That fourth pick should have been offensive guard, defensive tackle, whatever. It's just prioritizing was bad. So I gave him a C plus because of it. Minnesota Vikings, another division rival for my Green Bay Packers. I gave them a B plus. I really like how they traded up again into that first round to get what they needed. So they knowing what they needed, what was most important. I think they did a very good job just showing their what's the word I'm trying to say, their aggression, their aggression to get what they need. So I gave them a B plus. So they need a quarterback, defensive tackle, offensive guard, corner, running back. First pick they traded one spot with the New York Jets. And they got JJ McCarthy, quarterback out of Michigan. Everyone kind of knew he was going to go there. It was kind of said. A lot of mock drafts had him going there. I don't think JJ McCarthy is going to do great in the NFL. I think a lot of because of what we saw in Michigan, whether it was Harbaugh's style of playing, whatever the situation is. I don't think McCarthy was really able to show that he has the talent or skills to be a franchise quarterback in the NFL. So I think he's going to have a very mediocre season or end up being a backup quarterback. Right now, he's going to learn under Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is going to be the bridge for the Vikings. But what I did like is that they traded up to the first round again, or they traded, sorry, not into the first round. They traded higher in the first round to the 17th pick, and they got Dallas Turner, edge at Alabama. Again, a player I think the Falcons should have taken with their 9th pick. He dropped out of the top 10. He's a top 10 talent. He dropped out. Vikings saw they needed help on the defensive side of the ball, rushing the quarterback. Although it's not here, I think it was a very good pick, seeing the next available player. I like that pick of Dallas Turner going to the Minnesota Vikings. They didn't have a second, third round pick, so they go to the fourth. They get Kyrie Jackson, corner out of Oregon. Seeing how Packers have the wide receiver, seeing how the Bears stacked up with the wide receiver, seeing how the Lions have the wide receiver. And then with the Vikings, of course, having Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison with the wide receivers. But you're going to need to go corner, need some help. They get Kyrie Jackson out of Oregon. I think he's a really good corner. Not, he was rated as the 14th best. I think he's higher. I think he's definitely a top 10 corner. So let's see how this one plays out, how Vikings fix on their defense. Then after they went Walter Roos, offensive tackle of Oklahoma, get some protection for Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy, depending on when they make that transition. And seeing how Kirk Cousins was getting hit quite a bit last season, they know they need an offensive tackle. They needed some help on there. Of course, it says their need was guard, tackle, guard. And like I said, a lot of these players are versatile and playing either one. This one, I don't think they should have reached for. Will Richard, punt kicker from Alabama. They could have waited until the 7th round to get him. And then after they go Michael Jurgens, center out of Wake Forest. Again, more protection. I like it. You don't get the guard, but you get the protection you need. And then after is where you finally get your defensive tackle, Levi Drake Rodriguez, defensive tackle at Texas A&M Commerce. I think really the pick that only needed to be changed was the kicker. You need a running back. You need a running back. The Vikings needed running back right now. The running back is Aaron Jones. The Packers just let go. Then it's Ty Chandler and Miles Gaskin, Kenneth Negawu. So you need a strong running back. This is one team that should have gone for him right, and they didn't. A part of it is why I say they got a B plus. But other than that, I think they did very well in protecting the quarterback, protecting their future. So moving on from the Vikings to going to the New England Patriots, I give them an A. I really do. There was a lot of talk that they were going to trade that third round pick. Sorry, there's a lot of talk they were going to trade that first round pick, the third number 3 to the Raiders, Giants, or the Vikings. Never happened. They stuck to it. They got Drake May. They got their franchise quarterback. Of course, they pretty much mentioned Brissett is going to start majority of the season being the bridge to help May learn and grow under. I think that's really great that they got their quarterback out of North Carolina. Other that they needed was offensive tackle, wide receiver, because they didn't really have any offensive guard and safety. With the second pick, they went Jalen Polk, wide receiver out of Washington. Originally, I thought it was going to be Donnie Mitchell. Donnie Mitchell was going to go there. They went Jalen Polk. Jalen Polk was the second best wide receiver aside from Roma Dunze from Washington. He picked up the slack a lot once when Dunze was out for about a game or two. Polk picked up the slack. He was really great. I think it's a really good pick for the Patriots. They get a wide receiver that Drake could make a connection with. So I think it's really good. They prioritized gaining protection for the quarterbacks that we saw last season. They got Cadence Wallace, Penn State offensive tackle. Again, priority and getting what you need, and they really got it. They got the first three. It's just what you need. First four, actually, because the next pick was Layden Robinson, offensive guard, Texas A&M. I think offensive guard, there was a lot in the beginning, but because of the priority of quarterback and wide receiver needed that connection, getting the tackle and guard in the third and fourth was what you work with, and I think they did really well. They doubled down on wide receiver with Javon Baker from UCF, another wide receiver to help out and make the connections here. So I think he did really well. Part of a really solid UCF, ranked number 16. I think that's pretty fair, to be honest. The wide receiver room, top ones, top 10. After the top 10, it's kind of like a big gap. So seeing what you get from there, I think you get, you kind of get what you get, and I think they did pretty well with Javon Baker. After they went Marcellus Dial, corner out of South Carolina. Ray corner wasn't necessarily a need for them, but they went help in the secondary. That's fine. Could have gone safety, but they went corner instead. They doubled down on another quarterback. They got Joe Milton, the third, the quarterback at Tennessee. Got a lot of hype. I believe it was 2 years ago, not this last season, but the season before, coming in, taking over. So I don't think he did as good. 6th-round quarterback, that's fine. I think eventually either he stays the Patriots as the backup growing, or he eventually leaves somewhere. But I don't think he's really going to be getting a lot of playing time in the Patriot uniform. And then the last pick was Jaheim Bell, tight end out of Florida State. My opinion, you had Hunter Henry already there, who's been great for the Patriots this last season. I guess you want Bell to learn under Hunter Henry, and when the time comes, he goes in there. So I think I like the priority of the first 5 picks, getting what you need and getting it quickly whenever you have those picks. That's why I pretty much gave them an A for it. Give them a. I think they did a really great job. Moving on to the New Orleans Saints, I was between an A and an A minus for them. I think they did a really great job in their picks, what they got. So with the Saints, need offensive tackle, defensive tackle, quarterback, offensive guard, wide receiver. For the first pick, they had Talasi Fuaga, offensive tackle. He's from Oregon State, great run blocker, protecting his quarterback. In the Pac-12, he had phenomenal. Oregon State did really well. They went on a great run, and he was part of when it comes to stopping that defense from getting to his quarterback. He was a big part of it. It's a great part because they need protection for Derek Carr, who's getting hit quite a bit last season. Getting this 100% needed, and it was a priority. So I like this pick for them. They ended up getting a cornerback, Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama. Gritty, tough corner. bulking it up, especially going against the Falcons. They have Drake London, you have Kyle Pitts, and now they're adding more receivers. I think is really nice. The one I really found interesting was the Spencer Rattler quarterback, South Carolina, which the Raiders either should have gotten or the Falcons should have waited for. Spencer's going to learn under Derek Carr, eventually maybe taking the reins for the Saints. But they could have waited a little, but it's already the fifth round on this, and they needed a quarterback, so I guess for backup. They eventually went Bub Means for wide receiver at Pittsburgh, to replace Michael Thomas. Of course, Means is going to be the third round, third string wide receiver, but replacing it, I think you could have maybe got him wide receiver in the second round if you really want to replace Michael Thomas, and then I don't think Cooley McKester would have been there later on, especially not in the fifth round. So you would have had to trade it up. So they went with what they could have got, or what they've got with the picks they have, especially having three fifth round picks. Right after they went Jalen Ford, linebacker out of Texas. They really need a linebacker, but could have prioritized getting a defensive tackle higher, getting an offensive guard, in which they did not get. Right after they went Christian Boyd, defensive tackle out of Northern Iowa. A little late, I think, again, prioritizing this. And then they doubled down with more protection for Derek Carr and offensive tackle Josiah Ezrim, Eastern Kentucky. But overall, they got the protection, which I think was the biggest priority of this. Getting the protection they need for Derek Carr. Got another wide receiver in which they could use. And then got a corner. Got a defensive tackle to help. Coming up next, the New York Giants. I have them between a B minus and a C plus. It was going to be very tough on Giants if they really wanted to get a quarterback. I didn't think that should have been the way they went. There was a lot of options I had, but I had them going Rams of Doomsday because I had the Chargers getting Malik Neighbors. But for them, Malik Neighbors was the next one up. They took him with the sixth pick wide receiver, using Daniel Jones because how much they're paying him, getting them a weapon, for sure wide receiver one, and you already have Darren Waller as your tight end. Get a wide receiver, get something going. You just lost your running back. Of course, I thought they were a team that was going to reach for a running back because Saquon is gone. But they stick to needing a wide receiver first. I like it. But I give them a B because of, again, some of the players and part of their needs. They need a quarterback, which, again, I didn't think was the priority of it. Wide receiver, of course, Neighbors go. They need a corner, which they get. They need an offensive guard and offensive tackle, which they did not get, which is very important because they needed that to protect Daniel Jones. With their second pick, they got the first safety off the board, in which I think they reached for. Tyler Nubbin, safety out of Minnesota. Like I said, I think Javon Bullard was the best safety in this draft. They reached for Tyler Nubbin and allowed the Packers to get a Bullard. But Nubbin, safety wasn't your priority. Yeah, you need help in the secondary. That's fine. I'm not against that. But safety should have been that priority. So your priority should have been, if you're getting a weapon for Daniel Jones, that means you need to get protection from him. And for that, you should have gotten a guard or a tackle, especially with the number 15 second round pick. There was good enough players that could have been taken there. So I think that's an issue that they should have worked on. They literally could have gotten Brandon Coleman, Cooper Beebe, which ended up going to the Cowboys. Like I said, was a steal. He should have gone to the Giants. So bad reach on that one. Eventually, they ended up getting Andrew Phillips, a corner from Kentucky. They needed a corner. That's fine. But again, if you're going to prioritize corners, that could have been your second round pick, or offensive guard be your second round pick. This one at 3 would have been fine. Theo Johnson, tight end out of Penn State. You didn't need a tight end. Why are you getting it? Eventually, you get your running back with Tyrone Tracy Jr. at Purdue. Again, could have got running back at a higher level. Could have got running back in the fourth round. Could have got him in the third round if you prioritized it better. At the end, they ended with Darius Mausa, linebacker out of UCLA. And now I'm looking at this. I know I gave the Giants a B because of Malik Neighbors and getting a corner and getting a running back. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm giving them a B minus C plus. I'm split on that. B minus C plus. After the Giants, the New York Jets. They need offensive tackle. Definitely needed protection for Aaron Rodgers, especially the injury. And even before Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson was getting and Mike White were getting tackled a lot, so they needed to prioritize that. So they need offensive tackle, they need wide receiver, tight end, safety, quarterback. A lot of my judges had him going tight end first with Brock Bowers. I didn't like that. I wanted J.C. Latham there. He got taken to the tight end, so that's fine. So I give the Jets a B plus because one, they prioritized getting protection for Aaron Rodgers. They got the offensive tackle Olu Fashanu, Penn State, great pick, next best option there. He was a third. He was the third rated. He was the third one to come off. With the third round pick, they went Corley, wide receiver, Western Kentucky. Um, Needed some more wide receiver help to Wilson spread out the ball, and with Aaron Rodgers, any receiver is going to look much better. So I think that was questionable wide receiver pick, but it works. And it's, like I said, the gap after the 10, it's a kind of big gap for wide receiver. I think you could have gotten Brandon Rice in here. I think you really could have gotten Brandon Rice. I think he would have done really well. Corley rated much higher. I think Brandon Rice was in the level third round. After go Braylon Allen, running back out of Wisconsin. Didn't need a running back. Brees Hall, of course, he has the injury history, but that's because of the turf field. That's what I really think is the issue. They end up going back with quarterback to learn under Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Travis, quarterback out of Florida State. He was a really good quarterback this last season. He really was, in my opinion, the big effort of them even fighting to get a playoff spot till he broke his ankle. So I think he's going to learn a lot and he could be utilized really well. Learning under Aaron Rodgers, like we saw Jordan Love, and being for the New York Jets. After they went Isaiah Davis, running back, again, you don't need another running back. Don't need another running back. But then they ended up getting Kwanzaa Stinger, corner out of Toronto. Could have helped with the safeties, corners, not much needed, but you got the wide receiver, you got the tackle to protect you. And then you go to safety. And they went safety Jalen Keys, Alabama. So really, realistically, this grade should have been a B, maybe a B minus. I give a B plus just because of how much I like the prioritizing the protection for Aaron Rodgers and the wide receiver. But now looking back at it, after giving this grade, I really think it's a B. So on the spot, I'm gonna just drop him down to a B, maybe a B minus, because you don't need two running backs. I'm gonna drop him a B. Honestly, I'm gonna just drop him a B. You don't need two running backs like that. I know it's long. We're getting to the end. Justy. Next up, the Philadelphia Eagles. I give them an A minus. I think what they needed was corner, offensive tackle, offensive guard, wide receiver, linebacker. The first pick, Quinell Mitchell. I had him going there. He fits it really well. Tough. Doesn't matter if he came out Toledo and their competition was as good. He was still great, especially in the Senior Bowl. I think it's a really good one. They double down and get another great corner who's number 4, number 3 in um some people's view. I thought he was number 4, Cooper DeJean from Iowa, a white boy. They have the memes of a white boy going. They got him. That was a really good pick. They double down on the corners, which they need help on. They get Jalix Hunter, edge out of Houston Christian. Didn't need an edge, but help on the defense, forcing it out. They got Will Shipley, running back at the Clemson. You just got Saquon Barkley, so running back wasn't a need. And then after you get Alliances Smith, wide receiver at Texas A&M. You just paid Devontae Smith and I believe AJ Brown. He didn't really need another wide receiver. So again, prioritizing. That's why he didn't get like an A or A plus. But I really do like the corner picks, and I do like these later picks. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., linebacker, Clemson, very good linebacker. I was surprised he dropped to the 5th round. He's very good, so I think that was a steal for the Eagles. Then they get Trevon Keegan, offensive guard at Michigan, another one that I think was really good. So another steal, in my opinion, dropping to the 5th round. I think a bit underrated, but I wonder how he's going to do with him. Then they get Johnny Wilson, wide receiver, again, not needed. And then Dylan McCone, offensive guard at North Carolina State. Again, protection, but I give it A minus. I really like the double corners and the linebacker. I think it was a steal. And helping out on the edge on the defense side. But the wide receivers and the running backs, not needed. Moving to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Uh, yeah, moving to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they did very good. I have them at an A. They need a wide receiver, center, corner, defensive tackle, offensive tackle. The first pick, which I thought was going to be Terrion Arnold because of the corner position, which I thought he would fit really well. Instead, they got Troy Faltanu, offensive guard at Washington. He's a great offensive guard, one of the best. He was ranked number 2, and I think well deserved. Great blocker. He keeps up with the plays. He's not slow. He doesn't get beat. And the best one's a big part of why Michael Penix Jr. Although he did get injured, it wasn't through his side, wasn't through his fault. So I think it's going to be a lot of help, especially for Justin Fields, who didn't really have that in Chicago. But right now, Russell Wilson because he's starting. Then after they go center, Zach Frazier from West Virginia, doubling down, getting the O line, getting protection. It's really good. Then they get Ron Wilson, wide receiver out of Michigan. Think he was the best wide receiver, especially for Michigan this year. They need a wide receiver to help with Pickens, and that's the wide receiver two, in my opinion. Yeah, Peyton Wilson, linebacker in North Carolina. I think this is a steal. Although it's not as much needed, it is a steal. I think Peyton was definitely a second round talent at the end of the first round, but definitely second round talent. They get a steal here. And then Mason McCormick out of South Dakota State, offensive guard, another great steal. I think it was a really big one for the Steelers, in which why I gave him an A, because McCormick I had as a low first round, high second round talent, offensive guard, especially with all the guards going. I thought he was going there. They get him in the fourth round, a steal, a steal. Then later they get Logan Lee, a defensive tackle, which need defense on the other side of the ball. Iowa, they could have focused really no one unless you want to switch out Peyton because you didn't need a linebacker, but you need a defensive tackle. But even Peyton was a steal, and I think you could live with it. And at the end, they closed it off with Ryan Watts, a corner out of Texas. So I think it does really well. Getting a corner out of Texas, you need the help. You could have got Terry Honor, the number one corner, or it could have got a corner in the second round, but you go with your priorities of protecting your quarterback. So I understand. Moving on to the San Francisco 49ers, I gave them A minus B plus. Now, I was one person where their first pick, they got Ricky Purcell, wide receiver out of Florida. I was like, why? You could have gotten a better wide receiver. You literally could have gotten Leggett, could have got Worthy was gone by the time. Could have got Coleman. You could have got McConkley. You kind of got other players. Purcell was ranked number 9 wide receiver. He is in the top 10. Don't get me wrong. A first round pick? No, I thought he would have been a second round pick. But he fits in the Niner style. That's what works so well with it later on. You realize he works with the Niners. He's willing to block. He's willing to, much like George Kittle, where he doesn't have to get the ball. A Purcell, one, he has great hands, great catch. If you look at his highlight reel, great catches, high balls, low balls, taking the hits and still being able to be fine. Crazy. So it might be a little. So he fits the playing style. Then they get Ronaldo Green, corner out of Florida State. Originally, um I had the Niners in my mock draft going corner first and getting Kool-Aid McKinstry, but instead they decided to get a corner in the late second round. Best option there for Florida State. Again, part of the Florida State team that was really good. Right after they get Dominic Pooney, offensive tackle, Kansas. Get some protection for Purdy. You kind of needed it for a bit, and they needed some use, especially. Then they go Malik Mustafa, safety out of Wake Forest. A safety was the second option. Again, I had Javon Bullard being the second option for the Niners if they didn't get Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think safety was also could have been really used. They went in the fourth round with it. That's fine. Then they go Isaac Guerrero, running back at Louisville. You have Christian McCaffrey. You have Jusic. I don't think you need a running back, so that one was a pick I don't think you really needed. After they went Jacob Cowing, wide receiver at Arizona. You could doubling down with another wide receiver. You could always use more, especially unknown Debo Ayuk. There's a lot of speculation that either one is getting traded, both getting traded, neither one is getting traded. With any of this, it's always good to have a wide receiver ready and backup to help. Uh, After they go Jared Kingston, offensive guard out of USC. Again, more protection. Purdy could always use it. Christian McCaffrey could always use it, creating gaps, creating holes. With them using to run the ball a lot, or just using McCaffrey a lot, created a lot of open opportunities. And then at the end, they got Tatum, Bethune, linebacker out of Florida State. I think Bethune, my opinion, I think when I was doing the draft, I had him being a late second round pick, third round pick. So it's kind of a steal, especially with the linebackers. I think they got really good on this one. They didn't get in center, but I think that's okay for the Niners at the moment. Moving on to the Seahawks, I was in between an A minus to a B plus. Originally, I had them going with the first round pick in Cooper Beebe because of the versatility that it brings and the help that the Seahawks needed. But they ended up going Byron Murphy, the second out of defensive tackle out of Texas, which I'm not mad at because he was the best option there and he was really great. And they could have used help on the defensive side of the ball, even though this doesn't have it as a priority. The other priorities were offensive guard, which Cooper Beebe was, and I thought that should have been the first pick. Edge, corner, safety, and center. The 16th pick, they definitely could have gone an edge. They could have gone Jared Verse or Dallas Turner because this pick was right before the Minnesota Vikings got Dallas Turner. So they could have gone, but they got a defensive tackle. That's perfectly fine. He's a great player. Christian Haynes, I thought he was going to go in the first round too because of how many offensive guards and tackles I had going. I thought he was a possible late first round, early second round. He gets taken the third round offensive guard out of UConn. I think that's a really good steal. I think that's going to help out with Gino a lot, or even Sam Howell if he gets more playing time. Then they get Tyrese Knight, linebacker out of University of Texas El Paso. Again, they really need the linebacker, but help on the defense. I guess you could add it, but again, prioritizing. AJ Barner, tight end at Michigan, you didn't need it. This one I think he needed to prioritize, and this is why I was settling on the B plus because of the priority of the tight end. You didn't need it at all. You really didn't. And then you go to Nehemiah Pritchett, corner out of Auburn. They needed a corner. I think, again, instead of getting the linebacker at the fourth round, they could have gone a corner in the fourth round, dropped the linebacker to the fourth round. Again, just prioritizing. Satoa Lamea, offensive guy at Utah. I had him going first round to the Buccaneers. I really did. That was on my mock draft. He was going first round to the Buccaneers. The Seahawks getting the third round, I really think that's a steal. I think he was phenomenal for Utah, their best guard, in my opinion. They got a real steal. He's going to get, early on, he's going to get playing time early on. If it's not this season, next season. But we're going to see him early. After they get DJ James, corner out of Auburn, doubling down the corners. They needed, again, priority on it. And then you get Michael Jarrell, offensive tackle from Findlay, my bad, Finley. I know their offensive line protection. Didn't really need the guard. I think here you could have gone for safety. Needed O line, you could have gone center unless you're moving him to the center, or an edge. You really could have prioritized an edge on this one. But yeah, the last two, we're finally here at the last three. Sorry, finally here at the end. With the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I was between an A minus and a B plus. I'm gonna go with the B plus on it. I think getting Graham Barton, best available center up there from Duke, they got him. Having protection for Baker Mayfield, they did very well in the protection, but times he was getting to quite a bit. He got him some help, got him some protection. I think it was really good for him. They also needed wide receiver, offensive tackle, edge, corner. And speaking on the edge, I like how they prioritized the edge. They went Chris Braswell right after from Alabama. Versatile, getting really to the ball on it. He had a career high 8.5 sacks and 3 fumbles in the last season. I think even though he wasn't a starter, I think he did very well rushing the quarterback in a season that wasn't the best for Alabama. Even though they made the playoffs, but again, controversy, Georgia, Florida State, all of that. After they went Tyke Smith, safety out of Georgia, could have gone a cornerback, but safety, again, a lot of times they could be mixing them around. I think there's other safeties or corners that are better in the options. After they went Jalen McMillan, wide receiver, Washington, I think they could have prioritized a wide receiver in the third round. Higher, well, it's 3 picks difference, but I think you could have got that first. I mean, if you're looking at the wide receiver room, let's say you're gonna go second round wide receiver. If with the Buccaneers second round pick number 25, they really could have gone Malachi Corley, Jermaine Burton, Ron Wilson. I think that would have been Ron Wilson would have been the much better one, but instead they settled with Jalen McMillan, who was the third wide receiver for Washington. I think you could have at least Wilson, have the best wide receiver from Michigan. Yeah. They ended up getting Bucky Irvin, running back for Oregon. I think that's fine. I think they could have used more on the running back, especially that they're using it. So Bucky Irvin's going to be a really good one, I think, for the fourth round. They get Elijah Klein, offensive guard at the University of Texas, El Paso. Again, more protection. That's fine getting later on. And then they get Devin Culp, tight end, Washington. Not really. I think they should have prioritized a cornerback. They didn't get one. They should have prioritized one on that or in the safety position. So yeah, that's kind of what the Tampa Bay, why I gave them a B plus. Tennessee Titans, I did give them an A. I like the J.C. Latham pick. Switching. I know Joe O was most likely their first pick. They switched up. They got J.C. Latham, the second best offensive tackle coming out of Alabama. I think he did really good. I have them. I think it was really great. Then they go back and they get defensive tackle, which they needed, and get Javondre Sweat, which was out of Texas, which was he was number 6 on defensive tackle. I think he should be rated much higher. I think he's much better than just number 6. I think he's going to be a really great force to be reckoned with. He's going to help a lot on the defensive side for the Tennessee Titans. They end up going Cedric Gray for linebacker out of North Carolina with the 4th round. I think he was a late 2nd round pick, so I think that's kind of a steal for the linebacker position. They end up getting Jarvis Brownlee Jr., corner out of Louisville, later in the 5th round. Corner, not prioritized, but something they could always use and help on. They later get Jaquan Jackson, wide receiver out of Tulane. I think they could have prioritized this in the 5th round, get a better wide receiver in this scenario, because it is one of the needs, as ESPN has offensive tackle, defensive tackle, safety, linebacker, and wide receiver as their needs. I think you need to focus on getting that higher. In the 7th round, they got James Williams, safety out of Miami. Again, not a lot of safeties going too quick in the beginning. You could have tried to prioritize that higher. And then they had to gain an edge at the end with Jalen Harrell from Michigan. Down you could leave at the end, which was fine. I gave him an A because of the first 3 picks. And I really think that's going to help out a lot and change a lot for the Tennessee Titans. And now with the final pick, we are here in the last pick. The Washington Commanders, I gave them an A. They got what I thought was very more important to them. They need quarterback, edge, offensive tackle, offensive guard, corner. And to start off with their second pick, they got Jaden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU. I really thought he was the second best option in quarterback position in this draft class. Runs out of pocket. That's the issue, though. Although it's good that he runs out of pocket, he moves out. He's running quarterback along with a passing quarterback, very accurate passing quarterback. He does get hit a lot. He gets hit too much than he should be. It's going to be a problem. It is, but you're taking the risk of getting him. So you get Jaden Daniels. Second, you get with the 2nd round pick, you get Jerzon Newton, defensive out of Illinois. He was a 1st round talent. He is a 1st round talent, so I think he's a really good pick. Getting them in the 2nd round helps on the defensive side. You need it, even though it's not a priority it's not needs by ESPN. I think it's a great pick to help on the defensive side. And the same round, they get Mike San Ristil, a corner out of Michigan. They need corners. I think for a 2nd round, they got a really good one for how many are been going. Again, another 2nd round pick, they get Ben Sinnott, tight end, Kansas State. You didn't need a tight end, but it's another option, another weapon for Jen Daniels to use and grow. Third, they get Brandon Coleman, offensive guard, TCU. You're going to need a protection, especially with Jaden Daniels running the ball a lot and running around a lot and using Byron Robinson. You need a guard. You need a tackle, create these holes, and protection. I think is a really good one. They end up going Luke McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's brother, wide receiver out of Rice. We'll see how they do. I think for a 3rd round pick, they're trying to get another wide receiver for him. I think it'll be really nice to see how it goes and pairs up with Jaden Daniels. Especially, of course, you have that was Curtis Samuels the 2nd round, but you still have Terry McLaurin there. So let's see how that pairs up. How Jaden Daniels does with Terry McLaurin first. After they get Jordan McGee, linebacker at Temple, just bulking up on the defensive side right there. They get Dominique Hampton, safety out of Washington. Again, not necessary need. Again, but this is lower, so it's fine. And at the end, they get their edge, Devontae Jane Baptist for Notre Dame. Could have prioritized that higher, but especially with the edges being gone, you shouldn't have waited until the 7th round. But at the end, they got what I think they needed to restart, so I give them an A. So yeah, guys, a very long episode. Sorry for how long this is gonna take. If you guys reach here to the end, thank you very much for listening. For your feedback, write down the comments. I will read it. I will see. If you guys agree, disagree, whatever it is, you guys could disagree with me all you want. I take that as a constructive criticism. So thank you guys for it. But yeah, thanks again for watching. This is Silent Thoughts. I'm Joe Galvez. See you guys next time.